giving shape to ideas. Konica Minolta.
This video is a demonstration of the CR-400 and CR-410 Chroma Meter from Konica Minolta Sensing. Here you can see on the left the CR-410 with 50mm measurement aperture, in the middle the CR-400 with 8mm measurement aperture, and on the right the DP-400 data processor and thermal printer. The DP-400 can be used to set up and operate the device and print measurement data for each sample that you measure. If you don't want to use the data processor, the instrument can operate without it, but a connection to either the data processor or a PC will be required to change some settings. So when we talk about colour measurement, ultimately what we are trying to achieve is a numerical value that expresses something that is otherwise very difficult to do. To try and communicate colour without some kind of instrumentation is extremely difficult, if not impossible, certainly not cost or time efficient. When we measure anything, of course, there must be every effort taken to control the variables of any given measurement, and very simply, that is what colour measurement instruments set out to do. Human vision is an interaction between an illuminant, an object, and a sensor. So, the light in your kitchen, an apple in your hand, and your eye. That data is then processed by the brain. A colour meter controls the illuminant by using a repeatable bulb like a xenon bulb and the data for internationally recognised standard illuminants like D65. And it controls the sensor. In this case, the eye is replaced by filters which match the spectral response of the cones in the human eye. So, in using a colour meter, we get repeatable colour data that corresponds to what the observer and ultimately the customer sees. For many samples, for example plastics and those with homogeneous colour and smooth surfaces, the CR-400 will quickly, easily and cheaply provide traceable colour data. In this clip, you can see the difference in size of the two apertures. The CR-410 aperture measures the average of a far greater area, and for textured samples like these rice cake, building products, wood grains for example, this larger area is much more repeatable and useful. To measure this size of measuring area with a sphere-based spectrophotometer, you would need a far larger benchtop device. This works both ways. You won't always have the sample size for a larger aperture, and the larger aperture won't perform as well on curved samples and may be susceptible to some contamination on a sample. Our product specialists can help you select the correct instrument for your application. In the background, you can see that I'm using the optional SpectraMagic NX software to operate the unit, analyse, track and present the data. As we measure through 5 samples, you can see that although the difference isn't large between the two devices when measuring this blue building material, the texture of the sample is enough to make the CR-410 more repeatable. In the next example, the rice cake provides an extreme demonstration that for inhomogeneous products like wood, stone, concrete, brick, biscuits, etc., the CR-410 does a job that no other instrument can. This time, the difference in standard deviation and mean delta E2000 is far greater. This large aperture and averaging also makes the CR-410 great for measuring powders, granules, beans, seeds, etc. Here you can see I'm using 3 measuring cups to measure barley roasted to different levels. This cup holder was originally designed for coffee beans and coffee granules, but it works great for a lot of similar samples. Click the cup holder along, take a measurement. Click the holder along again, take the next measurement. Click the holder along again, take the next measurement. The CR-400 and CR-410 can also provide some liquid measurement capability, but only really for opaque liquids, most often in the food and beverage industries. Using the horizontal stand with either glass or plastic cells, the CR-400 can perform colour measurement for shelf life testing, for example. The upside down stand configures the device with a top measurement port, which is really useful for some solid samples and also allows the operator to use an optical glass petri dish set. This way the 410 could measure inhomogeneous sources like ketchups, grains, granules or powders where the cup holder is not practical, or sometimes the petri dish will simply provide a faster and more straightforward process. So, a Chroma meter isn't for every application. You have no spectral data, no detection of metamerism, no control of the specular reflection. For many industries, a spectral instrument will still be a better tool. But for some industries, like building products, food, etc., the CR-400 or 410 Tristimulus Colorimeter or Chroma Meter performs a task that is simply not otherwise possible. To discuss your requirements and understand how a Chroma Meter can provide you with simple and cost-effective colour data, please get in touch with your local Konica Minolta product specialist, who will be able to make recommendations based on your specific requirements.